not a doctor, but I do run a prostate charity. So the procedure is pretty routine. The most common one of these is done by laser enunciation, as they call it, which means that they go in through the urethra and ablate an area of the tissue from within the prostate, which gets pushed into the bladder and then removed completely. A catheter is inserted for anything up to a week. Sometimes an overnight stay is required, but it's pretty routine stuff. After a week, most people are free of the catheter and can just get on with their lives.
What about the discomfort, Willie? Is it painful? The aftermath, is that uncomfortable?
Not dramatically. Surprisingly, no. There is some discomfort, but obviously painkillers, just normal painkillers, will keep that under control in most cases. The catheter is quite often the most uncomfortable part of it. I've actually had a procedure on my prostate myself for prostate cancer some years back, and the catheter was in for a week, and I think out of the whole procedure, that was probably the bit I noted most.
Let's go back to that point that I was making a bit earlier. As I say, the King, Kate Middleton, or the Princess of Wales, she sort of had to tell us something was wrong because we're not going to see her until Easter, so questions would be asked. The King could have done this very quietly, no one would have known, and yet he has decided to deliberately go public to encourage men to get checked. And considering, as I understand it, 80% of men in their mid-70s may suffer from enlarged prostates. He's done a really good thing, the King, here, hasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Our inquiries just in the last week or so have gone up by about 60% from men now seeking to find out more about how they can overcome prostate issues. We're mostly prostate cancer, but there has been a massive surge in people just looking at general prostate issues. So take my hat off to him. I mean, he is the ultimate celebrity. So when somebody like that comes out and speaks openly, it can only be a good thing.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's not so often you have sort of fairly graphic mental images of things happening to the crown jewels, but we'll save that for later on in the night time. Paul,
all day.
I know. No, but it was, you know, catheters and the like. It's okay. Right, Paul, while we have you, what are the symptoms of people who might be suffering prostate issues, and what are the dangers if people don't go and get that checked out?
Right, well, the issues are the most obvious ones are difficulties urinating, slow flow, stopping and starting, pain when urinating. And the issue is the longer you leave these things, the harder they are to cure. So if you catch this early, it's surprising. You mentioned, I think, earlier about men over 70 having these conditions. It's men over 40 and 50 that can actually experience these. And if you can catch it at that young age, have the treatment, which is minimally invasive, it will save a lot of hardship later on, because it can get to a point where you can't treat it anymore if the prostate grows too large. And
is an enlarged prostate connected to prostate cancer, or can it lead to cancer, or are the two conditions completely disconnected?
They're not disconnected, but probably 4 out of 5 cases of an enlarged prostate don't lead to prostate cancer. So the majority of the time, it's just urination issues that we cause it's a discomfort. But prostate cancer, again, is a good point, because when the symptoms of prostate cancer emerge, quite often the cancer is more advanced. So again, it's not just a case of getting checked when the symptoms appear. Over the age of 50, you should be getting checked to see if there's any underlying conditions that need treatment.
Before I ask Paul about things such as how to prevent enlarged prostate, and I'm not going to do that this time of day, let's go back to Rupert Bell. Rupert, you know, what is it? I'm tittering here because we are talking about matters to do with genitalia and the King's genitals, but that's what makes actually him talking about this and saying what he's going into hospital for really quite extraordinary. He's not just breaking royal protocol about revealing that he's having some kind of procedure. He's actually told us what it is for. I mean, that's really quite brave for one of the most famous men in the world.
Yeah, look, medical issues can remain private. That, you know, private and confidential, doesn't need to share it with everybody. But I think in this case, there is a wider thing at play. And I think he's actually trying to prove in many ways that he has some part to play in on behalf of the country. And by highlighting this, it is only a force for good. I also think it has helped deflect some of the attention away from Kate's issue as well, because we obviously don't know what's going on there, but has been kept private. But we know that she had this surgery last week So the king has sort of taken it very positively and is using his condition as a force for good, knowing that he's in the best hands possible at the London clinic. He's going to be well treated, and yet he wants to resume and show that by announcing that, look, get this done, I will get back on the road again pretty quickly, is a really positive thing. And I think it's a big step forward, because when you think about previous royal conditions, you know that X may have gone into the hospital, but you'll only get a sort of, for a routine procedure or something. You'd never get the nitty gritty. But in the King's case, he's been very open about it. And I think that is a mark of the way he wants to see his role, a much more open approach to the passage of information about what he's up to and what is going on in his life.
Thanks, Rupert. Let's one last quick question to you, James. Paul. James is here. Paul. How does a guy go about getting their prostate checked? Important to relay this information. I'm asking for a friend.
It's the GP. Just make an appointment with the GP and go and discuss. And they probably have multiple conversations a day on this subject. So it's going to be no shock to them. Just be frank and open. Just tell them what your problems are and they can help you.
Paul, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. That's Paul Sayer, founder of Prostate. And, of course, that was Rupert Bell, TalkTV's royal correspondent. So, yeah, I mean,
James,
good move.
I was worried then Kevin was going to turn this into sort of a This Morning episode and show us on live TV how to do a self-examination or something. But, you know, we've managed to avoid that one.
Alex, we're trying to build our audience, not get rid of them.
Oh.
Particularly a niche audience.
I don't think that would even be a niche audience. That would appeal to absolutely no one. I can assure you of that, even me.
Oh, but no, it is quite remarkable that we have sat here. Thankfully, the King doesn't have cancer. There's no sort of, you know, horrible issue going on here. It's something quite regular, quite routine. But it is a very sensitive topic. I mean, I'm sitting, you know, tittering and giggling about talking about men's bits and bobs. But that's what, to me, does make it quite surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was sat here wincing away at this sort of stuff. But it's a really important thing. My family have had issues like this before. Hopefully, I mean, I think the stats are showing that already the people are Googling this and people going and asking referrals for GPs about it has shot up extraordinarily. So it's a wonderful service that the King has done. And I suppose he can sit back, however uncomfortable it may be, whereas it's not the worst thing that's ever happened to a king before. When Charles I had his head chopped off. And I might get this wrong, Edward II, who was supposed to have had a red hot poker.
Yeah.
Even worse than he through an inspection for his prostate.
I mean, the thing about this is, you know, it concerns blokes. Prostate is a male thing, and, you know, blokes are notorious for sort of not worrying about their physical problems, and, you know, if they feel a bit, it'll pass. And so this, in the past, before these awareness campaigns were launched, a lot of guys used to die of prostate cancer because, like, in the manner of the way men tend to behave, they just go, I know what, if I have a couple of pints, I won't feel it anymore. So it's good that we're becoming, shall we say, more sensible about this.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a dearth of healthy masculinity, perhaps, in society these days, right? You know, blokes that will stand on the roadside for a woman, you bigot, can't do that anymore, and people get worried about these kinds of things. But I do think that if we're bringing toxic masculinity and all these sorts of arguments, the one area where that's got some weight is blokes not taking this stuff seriously. However much we might be tempted to make jokes about it, it's so important.
Yes, indeed. We'll be monitoring the royal situation as well. As I say, I like the idea, you know, in my imagination of the King popping in to see Kate, saying, "Hey, how are you doing?" Do
you think he's sort of like in his hospital gown, wheeling
exactly.
wheeling the catheter bag along with him?
He's sat there playing chess against each other, checking the papers.
But he surely will, won't he? He surely will.
I think so. They'll go and grab a tabloid and say, God, what's Harry been doing now?
Anyway,